According to Marcus Aurelius, you should be more unattached. What's up, guys? I'm Sean, I'm an embryologist, and I'm usually talking about reproduction or making bad jokes. But today I'm gonna be talking about something a little bit more serious, and that is beliefs and meanings. Don't worry, in the end, I'm gonna tie it all back into infertility. So if you're here for infertility, listen to the end. And I've got my mate with me, so if I start talking fast, you know it's because of the caffeine's doing its thing. All right, I have been reading the book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Yes, that Marcus Aurelius, the one that's friends with Russell Crowe.
Servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius.
Okay, just kidding, that was from Gladiator. But yes, it is that Marcus Aurelius. He was the Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD, and he was well known for his Stoic philosophy. So if you didn't know, this book, Meditations, it was actually essentially his diary. It's him talking to himself. Even though he says you a lot, he's talking to himself. And it's really cool because, you know, he's this well-known ruler, but the things that he's saying to himself are so human and still so relevant to our struggles today. There's so many times where he's like, Marcus, dude, this is how we want to be. Remember that, dude. He's almost like shaking himself. I personally have the annotated version because I didn't want to just wander through this book and not really understand what he was talking about, and I've really enjoyed this book. There was one quote in particular from this book that really stuck out and spawned the reason for this video, and that is, the things of the world cannot affect the soul. They lie inert outside it, and only internal beliefs can disturb it. So anything outside of us can't affect us. The only thing that can affect us are things that are inside us, beliefs, as he says. As I said, this book is annotated. It's by Robin Waterfield, and the notes at the bottom go into more depth and say, the Stoics held that a passion was the product of a belief formed by assent to an impression presented to the mind in propositional form. Distress, for instance, is triggered by the idea that something bad is present. To correct a passion, you had to correct your beliefs. Now, in this instance, they're using the word passion, but what they mean is when you're having big feelings around something. Now, when I read this quote, it really stuck out because it kind of struck a chord with things that my own personal therapist talks to me about. That's right, I played that card. I go to therapy every other Tuesday, 8 a.m. That's what's up. But my guy, Joe is always trying to teach me about how to become unattached. And that may sound bad, but let me explain. We as human beings, our minds tend to try to put meanings to things, especially when there's big feelings around it. And lots of times those beliefs, these meanings that we have are very subconscious, but they can have a big effect on our feelings. The reason me saying unattached sounds bad is because you're probably thinking of the word detached. We do not want to be detached from a situation. Detachment looks like, oh, there's a big feeling going on here and I don't really like it, so I'm going to detach. I'm going to avoid feeling that feeling. I'm gonna ignore it. I'm gonna distract myself with something else. I'm gonna remove myself from the situation. I don't like it. So detachment, bad. We want to be unattached, which means we are not going to attach a meaning to a situation or a big feeling. Let me explain what I mean by using a somewhat simple and not too personal experience. I had a cat. His name was Sweatshirt, and he was the coolest. He was my homie. I had him for about a year, and he went, like most cats, fully nocturnal. He liked going outside at night. About a month ago, I let him out on a Sunday night, and unfortunately, he never came back. And I felt really sad about that. Like I said, he was my dude. He was my buddy. He would come cuddle with me when I read early in the morning. It's important as a human having feelings to feel those feelings. In this situation, I felt sad. Now, the thing that Marcus Aurelius and my therapist talk about is you do not want to now attach some other meaning to this situation. An attached meaning would sound something like this. Because I let him go outside, even though I know there's coyotes in this area and I didn't have an AirTag collar on him, all of those things occurred. Therefore, I am a bad cat dad. And with that belief is gonna come other feelings that do not serve me. Feelings like shame and guilt. And you may think, okay, you would get over it. That shame and guilt's gonna go away. It's not that big of a deal. But here's the real kicker. Once we develop a belief, that belief is going to follow us into other situations that are similar. So say I have that belief, I am a bad cat dad. My friends then come to me and they say, hey man, you seemed really happy when you had that cat. We really loved seeing you interact with that cat. We would love to come with you to the pound and find you another cat buddy. That belief is gonna pop up now. And it's very subconscious and very subtle, but it's gonna say, you're a bad cat dad. You should not go get a cat. You're just gonna kill another cat. And if you are unaware that you have built that belief in you, you're gonna carry it around forever and it's just gonna keep popping up in those situations. So I don't like to just read interesting books and go, oh, that's a cool little thing, tidbit, and then move on about my day. I like to kind of internalize it. So I decided to do an experiment where for 1 week, I was going to try to take note of any meanings or beliefs that I have subconsciously. And I had this cute little notebook where I wrote them down. And here's what I learned. 1, it was not easy. I think mostly because during the 1 week, I just didn't have very many big feelings pop up. It was a pretty regular, controlled week. Plus, like I said, these beliefs are very subconscious. So even when something did pop up, it was really hard to dig down and find the root of a meaning if there was one there. It's important to note that lots of times we do just have feelings and there's no meaning behind it. Just like in the cat example, I was sad. There's no meaning behind it. There's no belief other than I was missing my little friend. So it's important when you're having a feeling to try and discern, am I just having a normal human experience, a normal feeling, or is there some root belief behind this? The best indication I could find that I may have some underlying belief was when there was a lot of noise around the feeling. Let me use a little bit more of a personal example, but this was from quite a while ago, so it's not too personal now. I had a really good friend that I just felt like wasn't really giving me the time of day. And because they were my friend, this kind of hurt more because it's like, hey, you know who I am and we used to be closer, but now we're not. What's going on here? And I was starting to get these kind of big feelings around it and it was getting noisy. And by a lot of noise around it, I mean, I was having a lot of narratives with it. I was having thoughts like, why do they think they're better than me? They're not better than me. In fact, I should help show them that they're not too important to hang out with me. Now, it can be tough, like I said, to get to that subconscious belief that we have. But I think the best exercise to do is to try and reduce it down to one very clean sentence. And these sentences are often I am sentences. So when I decluttered all the noise around that situation, I was able to bring it down to this sentence, and that is, I am not worth it. Now, not to get too personal, but that is one that I have battled for a long time. That's a belief that's in there deep. But because I built that belief a long time ago, here it was again popping up. I'm not worthy. I'm not worth your time. And the real risk in that situation is I could have caused damage to this relationship that I had with a friend. Once I'm able to unpack and unwind and get to the root of the belief, just like Marcus was talking about, that in order to remove that passion, you got to understand what that belief was. By unpacking that belief that I have, I can then go to my friend and say, yo, we used to spend more time together. And I find there's a void in my life when we're not hanging out. Crisis averted, I feel better, and I patched a relationship with somebody that I wanted to. All right, and as promised, I'm gonna tie this back into infertility. If you are struggling with getting pregnant, you may have started to feel some beliefs around what that means for you. You may start to have subconscious sentences that sound something like this. Because my biology isn't working, I am broken. Because I can't do what I was put on this earth to do, reproduce, there's something wrong with me. Or here's the really heavy one that I've heard people say. Ooh, it's a hard one. I'm not trying to detach, I've just never learned the skill of how to be emotional and talk at the same time. It's my fault that my partner doesn't get to experience a child. I've heard people say that one. That's heavy. Reproducing is a biological process that all organisms on this earth do. There is clearly a very strong tie for a lot of people between their ability to reproduce and their mental health. So let me finish with my own little Marcus Aurelius moment and say a reminder to myself, and hopefully this is something that can help you. Listen, dude, Sean, you got this mind that's got all this energy just bouncing around in there. Have some grace for yourself. You're not going to get it right all the time. You're probably not going to get it right most of the time. Feel the feels. Don't detach. Unattach. Thanks for listening, guys. Pick up a copy of this book. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure a lot of you have already read it. It's a good one.